Hi, this is Alex from devstories.eu. High Performance Python Async, episode 12 of 17. You query your database, get a row back, and instinctively type the variable name .id. Immediately, Python throws an attribute error. Your data is there, but you cannot access it the way you expect. This happens because of the deliberate design behind record objects versus named tuples. When you fetch data using asyncpg, it does not return standard Python dictionaries, and it does not return named tuples. Instead, it returns a highly optimized custom object called a record. If you're used to other database drivers or object relational mappers, you might expect dot notation to work out of the box. With an asyncpg record, it intentionally breaks. You might wonder why the driver does not simply use a standard Python named tuple, since named tuples natively support dot notation. The reason is pure performance. A named tuple requires Python to generate a brand new class structure for every unique combination of columns returned by a query. If your application executes hundreds of differently shaped queries, generating those dynamic classes creates massive execution overhead. The library is built for absolute speed, so it bypasses that bottleneck completely by returning its own compiled record type instead. This custom record object acts like a fast hybrid. It supports integer indexing exactly like a standard tuple, meaning you can access the first column using index 0, but it also provides dictionary-like mapping. You access your columns using bracket notation, passing the column name as a string. Here is the key insight. The creators actively disabled dot notation on these objects to protect your application from namespace clashes. Think about standard mapping methods in Python, like keys, items, values, or get. If your database table happens to have a column named keys and the driver supported dot notation, typing record.keys would create a structural conflict. Python would not know if you wanted the database value or the built-in method. By enforcing string-based bracket notation, the driver guarantees that your column names will never collide with standard Python attributes. However, if you control your database schema entirely, you know for a fact you do not use reserved Python words as column names, and you require dot notation for your codebase, you have a way out. You can override the default behavior. When you establish your database connection, you can provide a specific parameter called record class. To implement this, you write a custom class that inherits directly from the base asyncpg record. Inside this new class, you implement the built-in Python method called _getAttr. You instruct this method to take the requested attribute name and simply look it up using the safe bracket notation fallback. Once you pass this custom class to your connection setup, every single row returned by your queries will be an instance of your custom object. Python will then allow you to use dot notation, seamlessly routing the attribute request through your custom method to fetch the underlying column data. Ultimately, the strict bracket notation in a default record is not an oversight, but a structural safety boundary, ensuring your data access remains predictable no matter how your database schema changes. That's all for this one. Thanks for listening, and keep building.